What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. I thought we could take just a moment and talk about the real estate world. What's going on in housing? How crazy is it getting? Looking over some of these statistics, it's one of the honestly, it's like my main focus in life. It's been my career for quite some time. This will be the possible second housing downturn that I've went through. So let's see how these statistics are coming in, what it's looking like for the overall market, maybe where we go. Is housing going to get more affordable? Is the market going to bottom out? Are we going to see a full fallout like in '07, '08? I think a lot of it's left to be seen still, but we're going to find out. So I was just looking over some of the realtor numbers that were coming in for September of this year, and it says the active listings have increased by 26.9% over the last year. So to me, that would make a lot of sense because we had a severe lack of inventory for at least a year, if not longer, depending on what your current market is. But the inventory was so tight. We couldn't get sellers to list their house because they didn't want to put it up on the market because they knew it would be gone in a day with multiple offers, and they would have absolutely nowhere to go. So they were looking for that perfect house, somewhere that they wanted to move into before they would even consider putting their house on the market, which created kind of the whole situation that we're in my opinion, as far as the supply and demand issue went. If we don't have sellers that are willing to put their house on the market because they know they're going to be gone so fast, well, that creates an inventory issue for us. So in 2022 of September, seeing 26.9% increase in active listings or inventory, to me, that's kind of a good sign. Now, is it so much good for sellers? I mean, no, the market's softening because that's competition, right? That's other houses that are coming into the market that are going to create a competition for whenever you put your house on the market. So are you going to be able to look over your CMA and be able to say, well, this house, my neighbor's house sold for this amount 2 months ago? No, the market is softening, which we have to educate our sellers, our clients on. We have to let them know that, look, you missed the peak of the market, right? It's like in the stock market. We can never hardly time the bottom and we can never time the top, but we can see a lot of things that are going on in the meantime, whether things are going poorly or things are really rocketing and things are just abnormal. Those are your signs. You know if you're buying at a low or you're selling at a high, but you can't compare history with what's going forward. That's the biggest thing. And that's one of the challenges that realtors are going to have over the next several months, because whenever we're pulling comps or we're doing CMAs and we're trying to compare houses and trying to get an accurate price value for your house, well, what sold last week or last month is no longer going to be a valid number for your home, because we can see that there is more inventory coming on. We have interest rates that are going up, and that's ultimately going to soften the price. So to get somebody to mentally, logically understand that they missed the top is a tough challenge for many realtors, and you just have to be honest with them. It's one of those things that, like I said, you never know if you're selling at the peak whenever it's coming to the stock market, and you never know if you're actually going to be the one that sells your house at the absolute peak whenever it comes to the housing market. We're going to have those ebbs and flows. The total inventory of unsold homes, including pending listings, increased by just 0.7% year over year due to a decline in pending inventory. The sellers are less active than last year, as newly listed homes declined by 9.8% on a year-over-year basis. So, like I said, that was the crunch that we were having. The sellers were not putting their homes on the market. Now, I think we're going to see that change just a little bit, possibly, but with the interest rates basically tripled from where they were at the low, now the sellers have to think, well, I'm not getting the absolute most value for my home. I'm not making out in this deal like I was last month or the month before. Before I was willing to sell my house because I was getting that premium. I was getting that profit that I probably didn't deserve, and I was willing to roll it into a new house, and I would give that person, the premium or the excess, and it was just basically a wash. It was really the new buyers that were having the problem. If you were coming from not owning a home and you were paying these prices, it was okay because the interest rate was low, but you still have to wait for that market to come back if you're intending to get out of that home. Most of us stay in a home for 5 to 7 years now, is what the statistics say. So you don't want to be the one that's trapped in the home. Yeah, your interest rate might be great, your payments might be great. You might have just paid $300,000 for this house and you got a 2.5% interest rate and your payments are amazing. But that just means that you're going to end up staying there for a little bit longer. We wait for the market to come back. It does come back. It always comes back. If you were a realtor, or you had your license through 2007, 2008, you saw your clients actually being able to get out in the last several years and to actually make a profit on that house. So eventually it does come back. You just might be in your house longer than the statistics say if you weren't putting down a down payment. A lot of people used USDA loans, FHA loans. They were first-time home buyers. They were excited. Great interest rate, great home, but you just had to let them know that they are probably going to be in that house for longer than they may think that they're going to be there. I always say life happens. You never know exactly what the plan is in your life until it comes. And when that day comes, then you have to figure it out. Is it time that you're going to take the hit? Are you able to take a loss on your place? Or are you going to be able to say, you know what, this is my life right now because I have no other option and I have to just stay here. So it was a big decision on the first-time home buyers, ones that weren't coming from a home because they had no premium that they were walking into that deal with. It says the time on the market was 50 days, 7 days more than last year, but 18 days less than the typical pre-pandemic levels, which is impressive to me. I sell a lot of real estate, and through the pandemic, I could not keep a listing on the market. It was gone. Like I used to do virtual tours and all of that fun stuff, and it wasn't even necessary. It was just like you could literally get the front picture of a house and you could throw the price on there and you would have multiple offers within the day, if not hours. It was crazy. So typical on the market was 50 days, 7 days more than last year. That's really not that bad. Like I said, we need that inventory to come in. We need buyers to have some selection. There needs to be a little bit of competition for the sellers overall so that market does kind of come to a naturalization somewhere along the lines. So home listing inventory growth stalls as sellers pause. Now, I'm not personally seeing that 100% in our market right now. I have seen a little bit more inventory coming onto the market. Now, what they're going to do, I don't know, whether they're leaving the state or what their game plan is. But we are seeing maybe those last-ditch effort people that are wanting to kind of catch, the falling knife near the top. And they could be the ones that are listing right now just to try to eliminate some of the pain as we wait and see where the bottom of this market is. I think they're probably the smart ones because they know, hey, we could still get a pretty decent price for our house and sell it in a relatively decent time frame. But at the same time, I know I'm going to take just a little bit less than my neighbor took last week or last month. But that's okay because I'm still, in the grand scheme of things, getting more than I probably ever would for my house unless I'm going to live here for another 5, 7, 10 years, whatever the time frame is. It says nationally, the inventory of homes actively for sale on a typical day in September increased by 26.9%. So I don't know how they're saying listing inventory stalls if they have an increase in homes actively for sale, because that doesn't make sense to me. But you know what, this amounted to 155,000 more homes actively for sale on a typical day in September compared to the previous year. So I would agree with the statement, not so much the subheading. It says active listing counts. Now here in September 22, I 100% see that in what I'm holding. I usually hold quite a bit of listings. I'm usually very active, and it's not uncommon for me to have 20, 30 listings at a time that are out there. And as far as what I've been seeing this year, it is slowing down. Whenever I see my numbers start getting cut by 33% or 50%, it makes me realize, I've been seeing this coming. I think we've all had an idea that it's going to come, but if you're actively selling real estate day after day, you see immediately in your books, you're like, wait a minute, why do I have so many signs in my garage? Why aren't they in people's yards? Why am I not just trying to figure out how I'm going to move this sign to the next listing? And it makes you start realizing that things are taking a little bit of a turn, and we can see that. I mean, overall, I don't think it's terrible yet, but I do think that there will be a time in the very near future whenever we see this become a really big problem again. And the realtors that have went through this before, if you had your license in 07 or 08, you're prepared because you know what it takes to survive those downturns. Whenever the market's hot, right? Everybody's a genius in a bull market. You've seen all of these new agents coming out with their license and coming into the office, and they're so excited, and they just don't know that they're about to be eaten. They are about to be eaten because your realtors that have been in the business for 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, they are the ones that have sustained all of these ups and downs. They know what it takes. They know how to make the adjustments. They've worked hard to get their name out there. They know how to establish themselves within their circle, their community. They can go back to the basics. It's not so easy whenever things get tight. It's a statistic that they say 80% of real estate is sold by 20% of the realtors, but really I think it's 90% of the real estate is sold by 10% of the realtors. Now I think that statistic gets a little blurred whenever there are really nice markets and you get so many people coming out, right? Everybody can eat in a bull market. Everybody can get a listing. Everybody can sell a house whenever you're in a really nice economic position and everything's going good. It's whenever everything turns. That's whenever, to me, 10% of the realtors do 90% of the business. They're the ones that are going to go out there and they're going to do what it takes. They're going to go back to knocking on doors. They're going to go back to flyering the neighborhoods. They're going to send out their postcards. They're going to make their phone calls every day. They're going to be the ones that work their sphere, that send out the texts, that do those daily things that they know they need to do to go ahead and make sure that they capture whatever little bit of business is out there. And they know that those that they've established nice relationships with, those are going to be the ones that will gradually just come into them. That'll be their free bread and butter that they don't really have to work for because they've established themselves over the years. Their name's known. They're established with the community. But it's the extra, right? We can't just survive off of bread and butter. You got to go above and beyond. You got to be on your game. You have to do your daily due diligence. So, I mean, I don't know why people get into coaching. Like, what do you need a coach for to tell you to do your daily things? You know what you need to do. So if you are a realtor, if you have time in the game, you know what you need to do. If you're a new realtor and you want to survive through this, you got to go back to the basics. You got to make those calls. You got to knock on those doors. You have to do what you have to do to survive if you want to. The failure rate is too high to be able to ignore any of those facts. You'll go back to waiting tables or mixing drinks or whatever you were doing beforehand if you don't get out there and start aggressively trying to capture your market right now. So that's what we need to look for if we're realtors in this situation. You have to start changing your mentality, thinking, how am I going to be the one? How am I still the one that people are going to go to? How am I still the one that people are going to call whenever things get rough? Whenever somebody's in a situation where they have to sell a house, why are you going to be the one that is able to sell that house? What do you do different? What is setting you apart from every other realtor out there? Why do they need to call your number? That's what you need to let them know. Total listing counts, absolutely true. We can see in 2022, it's been cut. It's been cut bad. You know what? I think I have, like I said, they've been going down. I usually carry anywhere from 20 to 30 at a time, and right now I think I'm sitting at 12 to 15. So my numbers have been cut about 50%, and it's not because I'm not working and not trying and not pushing out there. It's because there just are not enough sellers yet. And what I really have turned my focus on is, why am I going to still be that one that people call whenever it is time, whenever there's this tightening that's going on as far as the overall listings go. And if you think about how many realtors there probably are in the world or your area, you need to be that person at this point. This is your time to really solidify why you are going to be the one that survives through this economic downturn, what you have to offer. So we're looking at the pending listing count. It is going down. That would make sense if we're seeing less and less houses on the market. And it could be due to the interest rate rise as well. You know, we're not going to have as many buyers if they're not somebody who was qualified to buy a $300,000 house at 2.5%, 3.5%, 4% interest. And now if they're sitting somewhere around 7%, they're not qualified to buy that $300,000 house anymore. And if that's your market, if that's where your sweet spot is, then you're going to have less pending homes on the market, because you're reducing the number of buyers that are available in your price range, in that sweet spot, whatever your market is. The higher your market is, the tougher it's going to be, unless you're working with a lot of cash buyers, or if you have people that have money. And right now, I think money's going to be one of the things that are going to be hard to come by. So you're probably going to have a lot of those FHA, USDA, VA loans where they can possibly get a little bit of a better interest rate, you know, and they don't have to come out of their pocket with as much money. So be on the lookout, be ready and willing to work with those kind of buyers again. You know, before we were looking at cash, and if it wasn't cash, we'll take conventional, but you know, everybody else was kind of in the background. They didn't stand a fighting chance unless you had a seller with a heart and they came in with an obscene amount of money over the asking price, and they're like, you know what, yeah, maybe I'll consider this at this point. But you know, if they were kind of in line with the competition or even below, then it just didn't have a fighting chance. But I think we're going to see that come back pretty heavy. Newly listed homes, this is what I was talking about, is I'm seeing my active listings being reduced. It's just one of those uncertain areas, I think, for a lot of sellers. Like here, excited, we were still lacking inventory, but now, you know, people are thinking, did I miss the boat? Should I just stay here and see how this works out? Where am I going to go if I now take less for my house than I could have just a little bit while ago? And so we're going to have to battle that battle and see how everything goes from there. Homes sell less quickly than last year, but faster than pre-pandemic days. That's very true. You know, we could see some nice days on the market before the pandemic. And then whenever the pandemic hit, things got a little weird for maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks. We're all like, well, what can we do? Can we show houses? Are we going to be able to do anything? Are the lenders going to be able to lend? How are we going to do all of this? And it didn't take long. I'd say about 2 to 3 weeks, I sat on the couch and I'm like, well, I don't know. What do we got to do? People aren't letting their houses be shown. People are afraid of the pandemic and they don't want strangers coming into their house. People don't want to meet a realtor and they don't want to go into a stranger's house. And then after 2 or 3 weeks, everybody was like, game on. You know, this is mine. So it just got absolutely insane. So through the pre-pandemic, we're going to have a lot of skewed numbers that come out because it was an insane time. The last 2 years have just been crazy. If you weren't exhausted, then you weren't doing something right. I think it got a little bit easier for us if we work with a lot of sellers, if we work with listings, because you go out and you get your pictures and your measurements, you put it on the MLS, and then you get your paycheck basically. If you were working with buyers, you were probably frustrated. I kind of eliminated buyers for quite a while because everybody was just getting beat out. I'm like, we're writing very good offers over asking. My buyers are getting beat out. They're getting mad at me, and we can't get there fast enough. It's like they would call me. I'm like, yeah, we got to go right now. If we don't go right now, you're not going to get the house. And if you're not willing to write a good offer, if you like it, you're not going to get the house. So I felt like everybody was mad over the last 2 years. I hated it. Everybody's like, oh, you're probably loving this. No, I'm not. Like, nobody was happy over the last 2 years. Nobody was happy. No, you know what? It would take a whole lot more money to make me happy, dealing with just angry people everywhere. And I don't like that. I like my clients to feel like, I like the whole deal to feel like everything was a win-win for both sides. Everybody's happy at the end of the day. And through those times, everybody could not be happy, relative happiness, I guess, of owning the house. But did you have to go into a bidding war? Did you have to overpay for it? Yeah, you did. You absolutely did. So are you truly happy at the end of the day? Well, if it was your dream house, maybe. But if you're going to be calling me in a year or two to sell your house, are you going to be happy? Nope. You're going to be mad at me again. And it's not because I didn't tell you going into everything that you were just going into. Days on the market are climbing, which would make sense with the interest rates going up and with a little bit more active inventory. Buyers are going to get a little bit of time to now think about their decisions. They don't have to go in, see a house for 10 minutes and rush home to make sure that they can sign everything, or rush back to the office, or make sure that you can get home to DocuSign or Dotloop or whatever you use to be able to get that offer wrote and submitted in time. So it's kind of nice to see that the days on the market are going up. I would like to personally see the days on market go up just a little bit and rise with the inventory, and we'll see ultimately if these interest rates can get back in line. I mean, if you think about it, they're not, they're probably low compared to what the all-time highs have been in interest rates. And whenever they were 2.5, 3, if you didn't refinance, when are you ever going to see those kind of interest rates again in your life? So it's got to find a happy medium. Where that happy medium will be, I don't know. I would like to see it. I think people could accept a 5 or a 5.5, even a 6. But once we start getting into the 7s, 8s, 9s, teens, those are going to be interesting times. The median list price is coming down, which would make sense. If we are coming down out of this supply and demand issue, things will soften, and over time we will see those prices come down. So how far down are they going to come? That's the question. See, overall, if we look at year over year, you still, never really truly cross what was the high of the year before. So I'm going to keep an eye on that. Even whenever things get tough or they feel bad, it was never quite as bad as the year before. Until we see one of these indicators actually cross and show us that, it was truly a crazy bubble, then that's whenever things will get interesting. So could it come down? Yeah, it could. Could it come down 10%, 15, 20%? Yeah. And will it be crossing even what we were doing in 2021? Probably not. So it's one of those things that, over time it will grow. It will get back to the value that you paid for it. You might take a little bit of hit over the few years, but you're probably not going to really know or care unless you need to move. And that'll be whenever you truly care. Price reduced, up 8.6 percentage points. That's not bad. Active listing count, so depending on where you are, Midwest 4.8%, Northeast is down about 6%, the South is 57.5%, and the West is 64.2%. So interesting to see that. New listing counts seem to be down right now. The median listing price still seems to be just a little bit high, and I think that's coming in with where you're fighting with your seller to say, hey, listen, your house is no longer worth this. I'm sorry. It is softening. The market is softening. So that's going to come down in time, in my opinion. We'll see how it all plays out, but just wanted to pop in here with a real estate update. I know we all have our eyes on pretty much all of the markets right now. We're all wondering what is going to come out and what's going to go down and how all of this is going to work out. And we don't truly know. We just have to keep an eye. We got to keep a finger on the pulse of what's going on. Look at your own numbers, see if it's making sense with what you're seeing in the reports, and kind of go from there. And that helps you make your game plan for what you need to do to survive, whether this lasts a couple months, a half a year, 2 years, whatever it is. You'll be able to see in your numbers and the statistics how you are kind of faring in your own business, and if you need to continue keeping up doing what you're doing or changing something along the ways. So I appreciate you guys coming back. Usually this is a stock market channel, but like I said, I'm tied to both markets. I have very much interest in both of them, and I find them both very fascinating, and it's pretty much my livelihood for many years. So I always like to focus in on what's kind of catching my interest, and I know there's other like-minded people out there as well that are trying to either figure out what's going on or what their thinking is on the matter. So I will catch you guys in the next video. You're always welcome to subscribe to the channel if you want. I will catch you guys in the next one. As always, stay golden, people.